Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the show that takes a whole load of information, pulls it apart, and gives you the key insights so you can get really informed without all the noise.
That's the goal.
And today, we're diving into a phrase that's been echoing out of Iran for, well, decades now. Death to America.
A really powerful, persistent chant.
Exactly. And the material we've looked at gives this fascinating view into its history, what it actually means, and how it might be changing.
This is quite a story.
So our mission today is to kind of unpack the layers behind it, look at the strategy, and figure out what it tells us about Iran internally and, on the world stage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, hearing death to America coming from Iran, it's always jarring, isn't it? It's been such a defining sound from the regime for so long. Streets, schools, TV.
It really has. And it's that persistence that's key.
Right.
For the leadership there, this isn't just some slogan they trot out now and then. It's treated like a mission statement.
A mission statement.
Well, almost like gospel is how some describe it. For what, 46 years now?
Yeah.
Had this on state TV constantly, chanted at rallies day after day. It's foundational.
Wow. And what really gets me is how pervasive it is, starting so young. How deep does that indoctrination actually go? Like, what does it look like day to day for kids?
It's incredibly deep. You have young students every morning lined up in rows. And instead of, say, a pledge of allegiance or a national song, they're taught to chant, "Death to America, death to Israel."
Every morning.
Every morning. We heard this really powerful personal story from Lana Silk, who grew up there. She talked about being a little girl, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, forced to line up and shout these things.
It must have been difficult.
She described this internal struggle, knowing even then that it felt wrong. She'd try to hide behind the other girls so the teacher wouldn't see. Her lips weren't moving. Real tension, knowing what she was saying, but feeling it was just incorrect.
Yeah.
It really shows you the human side of this kind of state-sponsored message.
Yeah, absolutely. So, digging deeper then, this chant has a very specific starting point, right? During the 1979 revolution, with Ayatollah Khomeini coming back from exile.
That's right. His return and rise to power is central.
What was his vision? Why make this slogan so important?
Well, Khomeini's ambition wasn't just about changing Iran itself.
Mhm.
His bigger aim, his real aim, was to ignite a global Islamic movement.
Global.
Yes. He actually said, and this is a direct quote, "We do not worship Iran, we worship Allah. Let this land burn, let it go up in smoke as long as Islam wins in the end."
Wow, that's intense.
It tells you everything about his theology. For him, patriotism, loving your country, that was basically paganism. It conflicted with loving Allah. So the chant wasn't just anti-American. It was a tool for this huge global religious vision.
So it wasn't about national interest in the traditional sense. It was theological, global. Did that mean he disregarded, the country's well-being sometimes? And how did Death to America specifically fit that strategy?
Absolutely disregarded traditional national interest if it conflicted with a bigger goal. And the slogan fit perfectly. Cliff May, from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, he put it really well. He said it wasn't just angry words, it was strategic.
Strategic how?
It was Khomeini's path, his blueprint, to restore Islamic supremacy and power in the world. And in his view, that could only happen if America was, quote, defeated, or at least diminished. That's the core of it.
Defeated or diminished.
Right. And you also have to understand Khomeini's public image. It was very carefully managed. There's this famous exchange, February 1st, 1979. Peter Jennings asks him about coming home after 14 years away. Khomeini just says, that word home means nothing in Persia.
Detached.
Exactly. The whole persona was meant to project this. Untouchable, unreachable, beyond basic human emotion and religious purity. It was all an act, really, to signal he had this bigger agenda beyond just Iran, rooted in that chant.
Okay, so let's fast forward. It's over 40 years later. The chant is still there. The current supreme leader, Khamenei, still calls the U.S. the Great Satan, Israel, Little Satan. But you mentioned something shifting inside Iran.
Yes, that's what's really fascinating now. Despite the official rhetoric staying the same, you're hearing very different things coming from the streets. New voices, new chants.
And that really kicked off with the 2022 protests after Mahsa Amini's death.
That was a major catalyst, yes. It unleashed something.
So what are people chanting now? What are these new slogans?
Well, they're incredibly direct. Things like death to the dictator, or very pointedly, our enemy is right here in our country.
Wow, our enemy is right here. That's a huge shift from death to America.
It absolutely is. Mike Ansari from Heart for Iran, he highlighted this. He said younger Iranians, especially those involved in the woman life freedom movement, They just see the old slogan as false.
False, like a lie.
Yeah, like a distraction. A way for the regime to point fingers outward instead of dealing with problems at home.
So people are rejecting it? Does this mean they're losing faith in the whole system or just fed up with the regime's performance? Why aren't they buying it anymore?
It seems to point to a really deep disillusionment. The feeling is the regime is weaker now, more isolated, definitely more distrusted,
Yeah.
just out of step with its own people.
Mm-hmm.
People don't buy into it as a religious endeavor anymore, as how one source put it, because the results, the fruit of it, have been so painful. They just connect the regime's rule with suffering now. So that old message, it just doesn't land when your daily life is a struggle.
Right. The lived reality contradicts the slogan. So these internal changes, this disillusionment, that's significant. But it's not just an internal Iranian story, is it? The way other countries have dealt with Iran, especially knowing this ideology, that's also being questioned.
Exactly. You connect this to the bigger picture, and a serious question comes up. Have external governments, maybe, deceived themselves about the real nature of the threat from Iran's ideology?
Yes.
Well, some argue it seems, strange to be negotiating deals, whether it's nuclear weapons or funding, with a state that's officially labeled the largest state sponsor of terror, and whose foundational slogan is death to America. This is the kind of disconnect people point to.
Yeah, I can see that. And to really grasp how serious this ideology is globally, you just have to look at the groups it inspires, right?
Absolutely. These aren't just words floating in the air. Look at the Houthi flag. It literally says, death to America, death to Israel, death to the Jews. Explicitly. Or Hezbollah. Their stated aim, plain and simple, is to wipe Israel off the map. The point is, these aren't just, rhetorical flourishes. They're not playing. People chanting these things, they mean it.
They mean it.
It goes back to that Khomeini quote, remember. It's okay if Iran burns, as long as Islam wins. He even brought up Khyber, this early Islamic battle where, 1,500 fighters beat a much larger Jewish force of 10,000.
Why bring that up?
It's not just history for them. It shows their belief system. Even if you're outnumbered, even if you face setbacks, ultimate victory is guaranteed by God. It's a long game mentality. They truly believe they'll come back and win, and they're actively plotting to do just that.
So if the ideology is that deep, that committed, does that imply that real peace, lasting peace in the region, might actually need a fundamental change in Iran's government, a move away from this theocracy aiming for Islamic dominance?
Many observers believe exactly that. There's a feeling the situation hasn't been, quote, taken far enough by the international community. And this ideology, it spreads. It's described as infectious.
Infectious.
Yeah. Look at President Erdogan in Turkey. He recently talked about wanting to see Islam expand from the China Sea all the way to the Mediterranean. He's calling for alliances, Turks, Kurds, Arabs, to create a caliphate, basically, or restore the Ottoman Empire.
So it's not just Iran. It taps into a broader ambition.
Exactly. It shows this wider movement, this resonance of the original global Islamic goal, which threatens stability way beyond Iran's borders.
Right. So when you put all this together, the internal chants, the external actions, the historical context, the statements from leaders in their own languages, the conclusion from those watching closely seems pretty stark.
It does. The shared assessment is these declarations are absolutely a threat to world peace, absolutely a threat to Israel. But crucially, when they say death to America, they mean it. And they're actively trying to take us out.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this? We've seen how this one phrase, death to America, is so much more than just words. It's got layers of revolutionary history, religious doctrine, but now it's also being challenged from inside Iran itself.
And maybe it leaves you with a final thought to chew on. How do these kinds of deeply embedded slogans, these national or ideological chants, even when they feel routine or ritualistic, how do they keep shaping what happens globally and struggles within a country?
Yeah, and what does it tell us when counter slogans like death to the dictator start rising up? Does that signal real potential for change? Or are the old structures just too strong?
Food for thought.
Indeed. Thank you for providing all the material that allowed us to do this fascinating deep dive today. We really encourage you to keep watching, keep listening, and keep critically examining these powerful declarations as they play out. Welcome to the Deep Dive.